You know that feeling in your stomach, that instant sense of knowing something? Turns out that gut feeling has a surprisingly solid scientific basis.
It really does.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on, well, a really fascinating journey into the intricate connection between your brain and your gut.
Yeah, and our mission, if you like, is to unpack the power of this thing called the gut connectome.
Exactly. It's a concept with, honestly, profound implications for your overall health. We're drawing from recent research and the really insightful work of Dr. Emmerin Mayer in the mind-gut-immune connection.
And we really want to understand how this microscopic world inside you shapes your diet, your well-being, in ways you might, never have even imagined.
What's truly captivating, I think, about this deep dive is uncovering that dynamic interplay between your brain, your gut, and crucially, your immune system.
Right. And the conductor of this whole complex orchestra, it's the trillions of microbes living in your digestive tract.
So by the end of our conversation, hopefully, you'll see how understanding this three-way relationship offers a completely fresh perspective on something fundamental: the food you eat.
And its impact on your health, absolutely.
Okay, so let's really get into this gut connectome. It's not just that second brain idea we sometimes hear about, is it? Like the enteric nervous system.
Well, that's right. I mean, the enteric nervous system, the ENS, it is a vital component. And Michael D. Gershon, in his book, The Second Brain, really detailed its remarkable autonomy, how it manages digestion almost on its own.
Like independently?
Yeah, pretty much. But the gut connectome, it's a much broader idea. It includes the ENS, yes, but also the gut's endocrine system, the hormone system, and its immune system.
Oh, okay.
Think of them as like three interconnected power centers within your gut, constantly communicating.
Okay. So let's break down what each of these centers actually does. What's the ENS responsible for, day to day?
Well, the enteric nervous system is essentially the command center for everything happening in your digestive tract.
Wow.
It controls the muscles moving food along that squeezing peristalsis,
Right.
the release of digestive juices, absorbing nutrients. It's so sophisticated it can often operate independently, like we said, even without direct signals from your brain.
Independent control of digestion, that's pretty crucial. Now, the endocrine system in the gut, I usually associate hormones with, like, other parts of the body.
Right.
What's its role here?
You're right, but your gut is actually a major hormone producer. It's huge. These gut hormones, they play essential roles in regulating your appetite, signaling hunger or fullness.
Makes sense.
And they're also deeply involved in your overall metabolism. So when this hormonal system in the gut malfunctions, it can contribute to problems like overeating and various metabolic disorders.
Okay, that connects a lot of dots. And finally, the immune system. We know it fights off infections, but what's its specific job within this gut connectome, especially with, all those microbes living there?
It's a constant balancing act, really. Your gut immune system has to defend against harmful pathogens coming in through food, obviously.
Yeah.
But it also has to tolerate the trillions of beneficial microbes that call your gut home. A key part of this delicate balance is the physical barrier itself. That single layer of epithelial cells lining your gut, protected by a mucus layer.
Like a protective lining.
Exactly. Imagine it like a security fence, almost. It keeps the microbes from directly contacting your immune cells and triggering, unwanted inflammation.
So these three systems, nervous, endocrine, and immune, they're not just neighbors in the gut. They're really, like, talking to each other constantly.
Precisely. They're in a continuous dialogue influencing how you metabolize food, how much you eat, how your body defends itself. It's dynamic, incredibly complex, and absolutely vital for maintaining your health.
This is already giving me a whole new appreciation for what's going on inside me. Now, let's talk about the gut microbiome itself, those trillions of microorganisms. It sounds like they're not just passive passengers.
Not at all. Not even close. Picture your gut as this bustling metropolis, just teeming with microscopic life, this vast community, bacteria, fungi, viruses, others. It has its own enormous collection of genes. We're talking potentially 400,000 genes compared to your roughly 20,000 human genes.
Whoa, hang on. 400,000 compared to 20,000. That difference in genetic capability is staggering.
Isn't it? Think of it. This inner community has 20 times more genetic potential than you do. That's a powerful engine for adapting to your environment, particularly, your diet.
Wow. So they're not just there. They're actively doing things that affect us.
Absolutely. These microbes are constantly interacting with your body, communicating through chemical signals. They influence everything from how you digest food and absorb nutrients to how your immune system develops, and even, believe it or not, how your brain functions. They're active participants in your health.
And I've heard that the microbiome is incredibly adaptable, like much more so than our own organs. Is that right?
That's a crucial point. While your organs are relatively stable in structure and function, the composition and activity of your gut microbiome can change quite rapidly. It responds to shifts in your diet, your lifestyle, even your surroundings.
Right.
The Hadza study is a perfect illustration. They looked at the gut microbes of this Tanzanian hunter-gatherer group.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Researchers saw significant seasonal shifts in their microbiome composition, directly reflecting the different foods they ate throughout the year. It just highlights this remarkable ability of a healthy microbiome to adapt.
Okay, so food isn't just fuel for us. It's the primary fuel for this internal ecosystem. Let's talk about diet then. It sounds like the typical Western diet might not be what our microbes are hoping for.
You're spot on there. The Western diet, often high in ultra-processed foods, low in fiber, it tends to support a less diverse, less beneficial gut microbiome.
Which isn't great.
No. And this is where the concept of a microbe-targeted approach to eating becomes really important. Instead of only focusing on macros, carbs, fats, proteins, we should also think about what we're feeding our microbial residents.
And that leads us to microbiota-accessible carbohydrates, or MBs. Sounds complicated, but is it?
Not really, you've got it. MCs are essentially complex plant fibers that your own digestive system can't break down.
Okay.
So they travel down to your large intestine, and there they become the main food source for your gut microbes. When the microbes ferment these MCs, they produce beneficial compounds like short-chain fatty acids.
So what kind of foods have these MPs?
Think things like artichokes, beets, broccoli, lentils, onions. They're all rich in MBACs, particularly certain types like galacto-oligosaccharides, which seem to really encourage the growth of good guys like bifidobacteria in your gut.
Bifidobacteria, right.
So the key takeaway here is that feeding our microbes the right kind of fiber is just as important as fueling ourselves directly.
So when we eat these high-fiber foods, we're not just benefiting ourselves directly, we're essentially feeding our microbial allies.
Exactly. It's a symbiotic relationship. We provide them with food, they produce substances that promote our health. And it's not just fiber. Another important group are polyphenols.
Polyphenols, yeah, I hear about those in everything from berries to tea, dark chocolate. What role do they play in this microbial partnership?
Right. Polyphenols are found in those vibrant plant foods, berries, green tea, olive oil, lots of others. Interestingly, they often aren't absorbed very well higher up in your small intestine.
Okay.
But when they reach your large intestine, your gut microbes get to work. They transform them into a whole array of beneficial compounds that your body can then actually use.
So the microbes kind of unlock the benefits.
That's a great way to put it. The health benefits we get from polyphenols are largely unlocked by our gut inhabitants. It's another wonderful example of this microbial collaboration.
This is fascinating. I've even heard, thinking about the start of life, that breast milk isn't just nourishment for the baby. It also feeds their developing microbiome.
That's a crucial insight, absolutely. Human milk oligosaccharides, or HMOs, are these complex sugars in breast milk that the infant itself can't digest.
Right, like MAQs for babies.
Exactly. They act as prebiotics, specifically nourishing and supporting the development of a healthy gut microbiome in newborns. It's nature's way of giving their inner ecosystem a really strong foundation right from the start.
Okay, diet is clearly a major player here. Huge. But what about other aspects of our lives? How do things like stress, sleep, exercise, how do they influence this brain-gut microbiome connection?
Well, lifestyle factors have a profound impact. Let's take stress. Both short-term and, maybe more importantly, long-term stress can really disrupt this delicate balance in your gut.
How so?
Researchers have seen potential decreases in beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus. They've seen changes in gut motility, how quickly food moves through, and importantly, an increase in intestinal permeability.
That's the leaky gut thing, right?
Exactly, often called leaky gut. Imagine your gut lining as a tightly woven net. Stress can kind of loosen those weaves, allowing things that shouldn't get through, like bits of undigested food, bacterial fragments, to escape into your bloodstream.
And that triggers the immune system.
Precisely, triggers your immune system, potentially leading to inflammation. Stress can also mess with how your body processes tryptophan, an amino acid, maybe shifting it towards producing compounds linked to inflammation instead of things like serotonin.
Wow. Leaky gut definitely sounds like something we want to avoid. How exactly does stress weaken that barrier?
It seems to interfere with the tight junctions, these little protein bridges between the cells lining your gut. Stress can make them less tight, more porous, so stuff leaks out that should stay in.
You also mentioned the migrating motor complex earlier. How does that fit in? Sounds important.
The migrating motor complex, or MMC, it's like a natural cleaning crew for your small intestine. It involves these strong, rhythmic muscle contractions that happen during fasting periods, usually every 90 minutes or so.
So between meals or overnight.
Exactly. Its job is to sweep away leftover food bits, fluids, and bacteria down into the large intestine. This helps prevent an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine, a condition called SIBO.
Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Right. And stress, or even just irregular eating patterns, can disrupt this crucial cleaning process.
Interesting. So even when we're not actively digesting, our gut has its own housekeeping routine. Now, what about exercise? We always hear it's good for us. Is it good for our gut microbes, too?
Generally speaking, yes. Moderate exercise seems to have positive effects. It often increases the diversity and abundance of beneficial bacteria.
Okay.
However, it's worth noting that very intense, prolonged endurance exercise, think extreme athletes, maybe Everest climbers, some marathon runners, that kind of activity has been linked, in some individuals at least, to a temporary increase in gut permeability. That leaky gut phenomenon again.
So like many things, balance is key. More isn't automatically better.
Seems that way. Moderation appears beneficial. Extremes might pose some challenges for the gut lining.
And what about sleep? It feels like we're constantly learning how vital sleep is for, well, everything. Does it connect with our gut microbes as well?
The emerging research here is really fascinating. It suggests a two-way street between sleep and the gut microbiome.
A two-way street. How?
Well, your gut microbes might actually influence your sleep-wake cycles, possibly by producing certain metabolites that affect your brain. And conversely, messing up your sleep patterns, poor sleep, shift work can also negatively impact the composition and function of your gut microbiome.
So they influence each other.
It looks that way. It's another really compelling example of just how interconnected everything is within our bodies.
This network of connections is becoming clearer and, frankly, more impressive. Huh. Now, you mentioned earlier this one syndrome concept. That sounds like a pretty significant idea.
It is a very thought-provoking perspective. The one syndrome concept basically proposes that many chronic diseases that we tend to think of as distinct things like obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, depression, even neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's might actually share fundamental underlying mechanisms.
Really? Like a common root cause?
Sort of. The idea is that metabolic issues and chronic low-grade inflammation, often driven by an unhealthy diet and an imbalanced gut microbiome, could be the common threads linking these various conditions.
So instead of seeing each of these as totally separate health problems, maybe we should be looking at a more holistic picture.
Exactly. And this broader perspective really highlights the potential power of interventions that address these root causes. And diet, as we've been saying, plays a particularly significant role here.
Which brings us back to things like the Mediterranean diet. We hear so much about its health benefits.
Definitely. The Mediterranean diet, rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, healthy fats like olive oil, it's consistently linked to a reduced risk of cardiovascular events, even depression.
I remember the pre-DIMID study.
Yes. The pre-DIMID study in Spain, with key work by Dr. Almudena Sanchez-Villegas on the depression link, was a landmark trial showing these benefits. And from a gut microbiome perspective, this way of eating boosts beneficial microbes like bifidobacteria and Faecalibacterium.
Faecalibacterium, okay. And then there's the MIND diet, that one's specifically designed for brain health, right?
Yes, the MIND diet, developed by Dr. Martha Morris, it's sort of a hybrid combining elements of the Mediterranean and Daesh diets, but with a special focus on foods that research suggests support cognitive function.
And does it work?
Studies have shown a really significant reduction in the risk of Alzheimer's disease in people who follow the MIND diet closely. Key components include lots of berries and leafy green vegetables.
Berries and leafy greens, good to keep in mind. And you also mentioned the DSH diet briefly.
Right. The DSH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. It was primarily developed to lower blood pressure, but it's another example of a largely plant-based pattern that benefits overall health and likely benefits the gut microbiome too.
It's just striking how these different dietary patterns, which all emphasize whole plant-based foods, align so well with everything we've been discussing about nourishing our gut microbes.
Absolutely. It reinforces that idea that what's good for your microbial inhabitants is often what's best for you. And this connection, it extends beyond just our individual diets, doesn't it? There's that fascinating link you mentioned earlier, the gut-soil connection.
Yes. That analogy between our inner ecosystem and the soil microbiome really captured my imagination. Can you unpack that a bit more?
It's a truly compelling parallel. Think about the rhizosphere, that's the area of soil right around plant roots. It's teeming with microbial life, much like your gut. And just as we consume complex carbs, the MACs that feed our gut microbes, plant roots release sugars and other compounds that nourish the soil microbiome. It's the same basic principle. The host provides complex carbs, the microbes metabolize them, and they create beneficial byproducts that support the host's health.
So the health of the soil directly influences the health, maybe even the nutritional content of our food.
Precisely. Industrialized agriculture, with its focus on monocultures and heavy use of synthetic fertilizers, think back to Justice von Liebig's NPK fertilizer approach.
Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium.
Right. That approach often prioritized maximizing yields of just a few crops. But this can sometimes lead to a decline in soil health, soil biodiversity, and that, in turn, might affect the nutrient density of the food we grow and eat, and consequently impact the diversity and health of our own gut microbiome.
That's a really important point. It truly highlights this one health perspective, doesn't it? Where the health of the planet and our own well-being are so deeply intertwined.
It really does. The health of the soil, the health of our food, the health of our gut microbiome, it's all part of the same interconnected web. Recognizing this is crucial, I think, for developing more sustainable and ultimately health-promoting food systems for the future.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. I mean, it's such a complex and fascinating area. To try and bring it all together, what's one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners mulling over?
Well, it kind of raises a big question for you, the listener, doesn't it? Given this profound influence your gut microbiome has on so many aspects of your health, how might making small, consistent changes in your diet and lifestyle actually create a positive ripple effect?
Ripple effect, how so?
Well, consciously choosing those microbe-friendly foods, managing stress effectively, prioritizing restful sleep, could these seemingly minor adjustments not only boost your individual health, but maybe even contribute in a small way to a healthier planet through more sustainable food choices?
That's a really powerful way to look at it. It encourages us to appreciate this incredible world within us and how our everyday choices really do impact this internal ecosystem.
Yeah.
Maybe, start by looking into some of those high-amp and polyphenol-rich foods we talked about. Just considering how you might bring a few more into your own diet.
Exactly. Every meal really is an opportunity to nourish not just yourself, but also the trillions of microbes that play such a vital role in your overall health.
Well, thank you for taking this deep dive into the brain-gut immune connection with us today. It's so clear that nurturing our gut microbiome through diet and lifestyle isn't just some fleeting trend. It feels fundamental to our overall well-being.
And what's so compelling is that this field is constantly evolving. There's always new research emerging. We'd really encourage you to explore further, maybe look into Dr. Emmerich Mayer's work or delve into some of the studies we touched upon.
Absolutely. And we'd love to hear your thoughts too, any aha moments you had during this deep dive. Until our next exploration, keep considering the incredible connections within and around you.